Okay, thanks everybody for coming. The board came to a decision on Friday night following Peter Jackson and Don McLarty's presentation to the AFL Commission. I'm going to ask Peter Jackson to detail these changes.
Thanks, Pete, and thanks everybody for joining us this morning on short notice. As Peter said, the AFL Commission indicated its support last Friday to a rebuild of the Melbourne Football Club, and I think you're all aware of that. It's important that I say that rebuild is across the whole club, and it requires some responsibility to be taken across the whole club for where this club is at today. Taking that responsibility started on Friday with a couple of resignations off the board, and there will be further changes to the composition of the board over the coming weeks. It also includes a restructure of the football department, which I've told the footy department and the staff about today. The club will appoint a general manager of football operations, reporting to me, and Josh Money will fill that role in an acting capacity for the remainder of the year. Josh is a candidate for that position going forward, but we will undertake an industry search for a candidate for that role. And on Friday, at its unscheduled meeting, the board decided that Mark Neeld should not continue as coach of the Melbourne Football Club, and decided that decision should take effect immediately. In making that decision to do it immediately, we consider it was in both the club's best interests and Mark's best interests. Mark and his family have been under an enormous amount, and quite frankly unreasonable amount, of public pressure for most of this season, and it's escalated to an extraordinary level over the last few weeks. It's unreasonable for him and his family to have to endure that, and I think that pressure was only going to continue over the next few weeks, and I just don't think that's reasonable for any family in football to have to endure. And I think also that Mark has a right to work out his future of his career in this industry. I think also from the club's perspective that if the board had made that decision on Friday and we didn't act immediately, we could be accused of not acting with integrity. To pretend that we hadn't made a decision and let it go for a while is not how we want to be seen as doing business as a football club in the future. And so I think once you've made that decision, it's in everybody's interest that you act with integrity and be honest with Mark. From the club's perspective, the on-field results this year have been unacceptable, well below the expectations that we would have had at the beginning of the year. It's not only the fact of one win for the year, but it's also the scale of the losses that we've had to endure over this year. There's been a lot of public conjecture about some players and whether they want to stay at the Melbourne Football Club beyond this year, whether they see a positive career opportunity here. It's our responsibility, it's my responsibility as CEO, that we do, as a matter of urgency, everything we can to make sure players see a future at this football club, see a positive career for them. As I've said to them over their career, CEOs will come and go, board members will come and go, and coaches will come and go. What's important for them is that they have a very successful and positive career, and we need to convince them as a club that this is a place they want to be for the next 10 years of their career. And I think that same message needs to be given to Melbourne Football Club stakeholders, particularly our members and supporters. This is the members' club. They own this football club. They are the lifeblood of this football club. We need to convince them that they should stay on for the long haul as well. So they're the reasons that we've made the decision. If I could add one other thing, Mark was only made aware of this morning by me. I contemplated long and hard over the weekend when to advise Mark of this. I thought in his best interests and as a matter of dignity, I would not let him know until this morning, because football has a way of stories getting out, and I just don't think it would have been reasonable to see media on his doorstep at home or on the doorstep here as he came in, and players having to endure all that. So Mark was only made aware of this at 8 o'clock this morning for those reasons. I'm happy to take any questions. Mark's obviously sitting here as well. You'll have some questions for him. I think, Mark, you would prefer just to answer questions rather than make a statement.
Mark, are you shattered by this, given that, as you said, you coached to try and push the young kids through?
Well, I think at the moment, John, the emotion is probably just disappointment. No doubt over the next few days or weeks or month, however long it takes, I'll be on a bit of an emotional roller coaster, but disappointment I think would be the way to sum it up right now.
Do you ever think you had a clear run at it, Mark, with all the off-field going on?
It's certainly been a roller coaster ride for the last 18 months, and it's certainly been a life experience, and, and I have a improved skill set, different skill set, a hardened skill set, whatever you want to describe it as, having been here for 18 months.
Mark, did you see it coming? Like when Peter called you in at 8 o'clock this morning, did you have an inkling?
When the CEO called me at 5 to 8 this morning, yeah, I had a fair indication when I took the call, Tony.
Peter, what did Mark do wrong?
As I've said so far, I just think it's, from the board's perspective and my perspective, that the results just aren't acceptable where we're at, and I think that's a general comment. I don't want to go into the details of it all. I mean, I'm on the public record when I came in about 8 weeks ago of saying that we need to give everybody clean air to see how they contributed to this footy club. I think we've done that, and we've made a decision accordingly.
Would you do anything differently, Mark, if you had your time again?
Sorry.
Would you do anything differently if you had your time again?
No, Carol, no, I wouldn't. We started out, with some pretty clear directions and goals. I certainly didn't see it finishing like this, and 18 months into 3 years. But a lot of decisions had to be made, and some of them were really hard. And it was felt by the whole footy club that, and me in particular, they needed to be made. And I still have great confidence in the group of players sitting up the back there that in time we'll get some really good results. I know that the world sort of says, oh, well, Mark, that hasn't happened on the ground. Well, we are aware of that. They're a young group, and last November there was a significant change to the player list, and the players that have come in from then have certainly added to the group, and they're led really well. We understand that the group are predominantly inexperienced, but over time the boys sitting up the back will get some really good results for the Melbourne Footy Club. I'm really confident in that.
We're concerned from the moment, Mark, of that headline bye-bye during the bye, that there was a leak from the board, and basically 2 weeks ago that you were coaching on untenable.
No, Steve, I've said this a few times over the past month. I haven't really read a newspaper. I stopped that a while ago. You can be as resilient and as tough as you think you are, but when you consistently see yourself in there and it's not nice what you read, that's got a use-by date, so I didn't see that. So.
Mark, Peter said that you're under an unreasonable amount of pressure from us, the media, and also supporters and the like. And he also said your family's been under that pressure. How great has it been?
One of the, AFL footy's tough, Tony. It's a tough industry, and we know that everyone has, I don't know what the correct term is, whether that be, stakeholders or everyone's got a role to play. It's a terrific game at its essence. We all, the boys sitting up the back, me, we love actually getting out there, being involved with the game. But sometimes you tend to lose that a little bit with I'm not quite sure what it is. I think for the game and keeping it at the forefront of everyone's mind, the soap opera sometimes it creates is probably a good thing. But it's a tough gig, and I still think I'm fairly resilient type of person, and it is. It's a pressure cooker, AFL footy, and as Peter also said, board members come and go, coaches come and go, players in the end come and go, but footy clubs will remain.
Have you been let down, Mark, in the end, do you think, by someone, or do you take full responsibility?
I think, and again, when Peter was saying it, it's the whole club's taking responsibility, and there's going to be changes across all parts of it, and I'm one. So yeah, I'll take responsibility for my component.
Sorry, mate.
You're right.
Peter, 2 weeks ago at the board meeting, Don McClarty sent out a statement saying, we'll be reviewing everyone at football department, including the coach, Mark Neeld, of the meeting with the AFL on Friday and getting the money to pay out Mark Neeld's contract?
There's been lots of considerations about what the rebuild of the football club and the football department looked like, and that outline was put to the board at that meeting, absolutely. But the decision was confirmed on Friday.
But when after speaking to the AFL and getting...
Well, the reality is, Mark, that we went to the AFL Commission looking for support to restructure the club, and part of that was changes in personnel, part of that was changes in the board. We're not, I've said before to certain members of the media that this is a rebuild of the football club as a whole. This is not about a single person called a senior coach. Whether Mark continued on as senior coach or whether we replaced Mark with someone else, that in itself was not the answer to this football club. It's a total rebuild. It starts at the board, it goes through to personnel, and in this case, as Mark just noted, it included him as senior coach. We're in a financial position. I mean, this footy club's made modest profits over the last couple of years, but and has managed to wash its face, but very modest. And so when the wheels fell off, so to speak, at the beginning of the year with the heavy losses, so did the revenues. And in a football club where you've got very high fixed cost structures, being player wages and salaries, when you lose revenue at the top, it goes straight to the bottom line. So we didn't have the cash resources. We're not structured financially like a Collingwood or an Essendon that can withstand that sort of pressure. We are a smaller footy club where we get put under very severe financial strain very quickly. So we had to go to the AFL to seek support. And I think the compelling thing from their point of view and the rest of the industry is that we are a huge impediment to the industry at the moment in terms of opposition clubs playing us as their home game, our stakeholders, the MCC, broadcasters, everything you look at, we are an impediment. We need to fix it up as a whole. So it doesn't come down to one person.
Did you tell the AFL on Friday that Mark was going to be, a decision had been made on Mark?
No, I did not.
Is Neeld Craig the interim?
Yeah, I was going to announce, I let that slip through, I'm sorry, but Neeld Craig will take on the role as caretaker coach for the rest of 2013, and we'll start a process as of now to seek a coach for next year, and the rest of the coaching panel will be as it is today.
Do you need an experienced coach?
We need a very good coach.
Peter, Neil Craig's been caught up even unwittingly in the supplements investigation. Is that any impediment? Obviously, you feel that was the case to put him on as an interim basis?
I'm not of the view that supplements issue is an issue for the Melbourne Football Club.
So how many board members are left? How many more changes are going to be made to the board?
Look, as detailed by Don last week, there is a board review process going on led by John Trotter and Jeff Freeman, and we expect to have that review completed by our July board meeting. But I would expect change. Several board members we would expect may stand down, and the board needs refreshing and rejuvenation. The board takes full responsibility for where the club is at today, and the board is very aware that this is a club issue and no one is exempt from it, board members or anybody else. It's a full board responsibility and full club review. Can I
just add to that comment first? In terms of the AFL support, I took a phone call from Andrew Demetrio late on Friday that yes, they have to work out the detail of exactly what this financial support will look like, and that'll take 3 or 4 weeks, but they're prepared to underwrite in the meantime what needs to happen. But most importantly, any support is conditional on a couple of things. One is that they want to see the composition of the new board and what that looks like. They would be anxious if there was a group that they didn't have the confidence in that tried to take over the board. So how we do that, and my own personal view is that an ordered transition of the board with the most capable people on it is the right way to go. And the second condition is that I stay with this football club to implement the plan I presented to them on Friday.
Could you work with Jeff Kennett?
Let's just leave the answer to what I just said, if we may.
You're saying that members sorry, Peter, if you're saying members should get a vote.
Of course members should get a vote, but what will happen in the process of the evolution of the board is there'll be casual vacancies which need to be filled. That's the way the process works. At the end of the day, the members will have the vote, absolutely.
Peter, will
Mark?
you be paid out?
Of course he will. He's got a contract with the Melbourne Football Club at the end of next year and will be honoured in full.
Now, listen, we've been to a lot of coaches who get sacked. Very rare does the full playing, that's what it looks like behind us. And almost every member of staff are here. How does that make you feel in the day that they're all supporting you and the club said you're no longer the man?
Yeah, I hadn't thought. They're pretty good. They're good people. I've walked in the doors here, Mark, for the last 18 months, and everyone puts their head down and works particularly hard. And I've got good, strong relationships with everyone in the room. And now that you mention it, I'm looking back there, and I know the cameras are pointing at me. You can't see that. I think it feels okay.
Mark, have you been able to coach effectively in the past 6 weeks or months?
Sorry, I missed.
Have you been able to coach effectively in the past 6 weeks?
Yeah, Peter, I'll answer yes. And again, I suppose all footy clubs are at different stages, and Peter's just outlined that they're rebuilding a whole club. So, what that means is there's certainly different ways to measure success other than the scoreboard, and we know where we're at, and we've followed on certain development plans for the majority of the players that are seated there, and they're going to continue it. And Craigie, along with the rest of the coaches, will continue to drive hard a consistent elite level environment to improve it, and that I presume that will obviously that will continue. So yeah, I'd say yeah.
You still believe that you were the right man to take this club forward?
Well, it doesn't matter anymore what I think. The club has made a decision to go elsewhere. So I wish the players and the coaches and the new coach, whoever that will be, all the best for the
How much does it
future.
hurt though not to finish because you've got a guy like Jesse Hogan who you recruited, probably sitting up the back there and you won't get a chance to coach?
Yeah, I'll have my moments, I'm sure. When it's really, coaches don't like identifying particular individuals. We've got a great group, and as we improve and the results that come on the field, I'm going to have some no doubt. I'll sit there in a couple of games and go, oh gee, but hypotheticals don't work in AFL, they don't really work in life, so let's just move on.
Neeld, has it lessened your appetite for footy at all, for being involved? You've been doing this for a while.
No, I don't. It hasn't. Footy's a great game, and it's an enjoyable. Most part it's enjoyable. Certain things goes wrong. I'm not going to miss, and certain things I will. But you hear players when they retire and that sort of stuff. The day-to-day camaraderie that exists in a footy club. I'm going to miss that for a little while. I enjoy AFL footy as an industry. I might have a little bit of a breather if you don't mind. Might catch up with the family and see what they've been up to for the last 18 months. And we'll wait and see. I still got a few mates around. Someone might give me a job down the track. We'll see what happens.
Did you speak to any of the players after you had your meeting with Peter this morning?
Yes, I've already spoken to the whole play group and the staff. So I had a chat with them and spoken to a few of them individually. They've got probably the hardest job in all of this, and 5 days' time they're off to the MCG to play against St Kilda, and this is, and I do appreciate, boys, I don't know whose idea it was. Reality is they should be outside training, but they made a decision to be in here, so we're going to make sure that their preparation's not impeded and they get out there ready to crack into St Kilda.
What was the reaction of the individuals when you spoke to them?
You'll have to ask some of them. I think we get along well. I'm not sure. I'm not going to.
I can remember that. Remember your first day when you got appointed. Nearly you was smiling and this big adventure.
It's been an adventure, mate.
It was just about to take off.
Yeah.
The 18 months that you had, most people would say that not a coach in the history of the AFL has endured the 18 months that you did. How have you come out of it sharply, ending today, but how have you come out of it?
Yeah, like I said, I've got a different skill set. I think when you sit in that chair of being a senior coach, the world, it changes quickly. Probably a little bit of time to reflect on that over the next over the coming weeks, Mark, I reckon. I'm not sure. It certainly, as Ian asked before, hasn't dented any desire to remain in AFL or anything like that, but I just need to have a bit of a deep breath and, like I said, have a coffee with Sarah and go from there.
Mark, was the scale
Hang
of,
on.
sorry Mark, was the scale of the task that you were confronted with more difficult than you imagined?
No, look, I'll sum it up, Rob. Look, there was I was offered the position by Melbourne to be senior coach. Very grateful for having that opportunity. It was very clear that what was expected. We've got a group of players together, a group of coaches together. In the end, we had a crack. It hasn't worked out. It's life.
Peter, can I just ask again about the AFL's meeting on Friday? Just want to seek clarification. Did the AFL say changes must be made and made immediately, or you don't get the cash?
No, not at all. The plan I put to the AFL was a restructure of the club to bring it back at a minimum to a break-even position next year.
Did that include the removal of 2 board members and the senior coach?
I've said before, Tony, that they have a view that responsibility has to be taken, and if any of that discussion was held about where in the club it was at board level, but we did not talk about Mark Neeld as senior coach of the Melbourne Football Club.
Peter, you mentioned that Josh Marnie's a candidate for the full-time head of footy. Is Neil Craig a candidate to take over next year full-time?
I'm not going to discuss that. We're going to go on the research and look for the best candidate, and if Josh turns out to be that candidate, well, I will congratulate him very well. He knows where we're at, and I'm sure he's going to work in the next number of weeks to convince me he is the best candidate, but I'm not going to get into a public discussion about who not may be candidates.
Is Neil Craig under the same parameters though as Josh Marnie?
Neil's undertaken to carry on with the caretaker role for this year. He is contracted to the end of 2014 with the club as well. He and I have had an open discussion about all of that, and so we have an understanding, but I'm not going to talk about the detail of that here.
Peter, did Andrew through in that Friday night conversation give you an indication about a priority draft?
No.
Is that still on the table as far as...
I have no idea. You'll have to ask them.
Does the club need one? It's hard for you to talk about it now, but I mean, you've seen the kids that come through, you've seen the talent on the list, but you need one to get to competitiveness next year.
Our priority pick. This is hypothetical now.